And then maybe build 2 new raised beds in 2025. No, we will. Welcome back. We're talking about the last year.
That's it.
2024. And I called it the year of the brassicas and of the mushrooms because to me those were my garden goals, was to grow tons of broccoli and other brassicas and mushrooms. But it also turned out to be the year of the concrete because you did a lot of concrete projects.
Yeah.
You bought a ton, more than a ton of bags of quickcrete.
More than a ton.
Probably.
Well, I bought a lot. I bought more than I've ever bought, and it was more visual. Anything I'd done with concrete previously was just a hole in the ground. It's not something you were going to see. So this was the first time I was doing visual things, and it's all in preparation for likely this coming year. But anyways, we'll get to that.
Oh yeah. More predator proofing. The thing that people come to me for advice for the most is how to stop squirrels and chipmunks and things from eating your produce that you're growing. And this is how. Build protection, build cages, Fort Knox your plants that you don't want things to eat. And so it took a couple years to get the time and energy and whatever together, but then Kim this spring made a strawberry cage because our strawberries were growing beautifully, but our squirrels were just eating them all. And they didn't get a single strawberry this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I made it all out of, again, found materials. I don't think I bought anything for that.
I dug a new garden. I wasn't going to make any more gardens this year. And then I think I had just quit my job. Yeah, it was this spring. I had just quit my job and I was like, you know what? I have nothing to do right now. I'm going to go out and dig a garden.
And we took the lilac out.
Oh yeah, that was kind of an inspiration. There was a lilac there. It was dying. It barely put any blooms on. We ended up putting an Asian pear there. But I just expanded the garden that was just a lilac. I expanded it all up the hill. It took me a day. Just lifted sod. The chickens helped scratch up any of the leftover weeds. And then this summer we just filled it with all the leftover plants, annuals, things that I'll have to replant next year. But it's still in the works, this garden. And I started a hedgerow. So we went to Wales. We went to Wales this spring and I was so inspired by the gardens there and their hedgerows. And I kept thinking to myself, how can we do this in Canada? It's really not a thing. Like hedgerows in Wales are a cultural staple in gardening and farming and agriculture. And here we don't do that. And there's no good reason why we don't do that. We still need windbreaks along agricultural fields. We still have appropriate plants and shrubs that work for hedgerows. It's just people don't do it here. It's not part of our cultural ethos of agriculture, but I'm doing it. And it looks like nothing right now. It still looks like a few twigs in the ground, mostly because the rabbits keep eating the things I'm planting. But I planted a bunch of hedgerow species to eventually hide the chain link fence that we still have on one side of our property, also at the back, but whatever. And so some of the things I planted were an Arnold hawthorn and a swamp rose and a chokeberry, also called aronia, choke cherry, hazelnuts, and we have elderberries along there too. And so once they start to actually grow and be nice hefty sized shrubs, then I'm gonna try coppicing them, like slash them at the trunk, bend them over, like still attached by a bit.
We'll have pictures from Wales we can show.
Weaving them. Yeah. So that's my goal along there. Planting happened this spring and it's probably gonna be another 3 or 4 years before it actually starts to look like a hedgerow. You gotta start somewhere. This is another reason why 2024 was the year of the mushrooms for me. I also decided last minute that I wanted to make a 30-foot long mushroom bed. Kim plans her projects for years in advance, and like at the very least a year. Like you'll sit over winter and you'll know exactly what you want to do. And like I wake up one spring and come out of dormancy and I say, I think I want a 30-foot long mushroom bed here, and it's going to be free, so it's going to be easy, so no big deal. You know, we'll just cart multiple SUV loads of giant
6-foot
logs and wait for months for a chip drop big enough to fill it. But it worked out in the end.
It did. It did. Yeah, I didn't love moving the 6-foot logs, but it worked out. Yeah. All right. So this big one for me this past summer, spring and summer, this really took up most of the year, was our deck rebuild. So as soon as we moved in, I knew that it had to be in the first 5 years. It was in rough shape in terms of just like the surface. the hope was that it was just going to be a resurface, but like with any of these projects, you start to peel back the layers and you're like, wow, this is really needed. Ended up being a ton of work. A bunch of the posts that were actually underneath the deck were rotted out. So I had to dig 4-foot holes. In Canada here, you're supposed to go 4 feet down in code. Because of the freezing and the thawing, it can heave, and so you got to go 4 feet down. So I had to dig down 4 feet underneath the existing deck and joists in 2 locations. And then even the large 6x6s hadn't been properly cemented at the surface, so I had to dig down 2 feet, and then I had to put adhesive on and then put some fresh concrete around it. The joist didn't have proper bracing. It wasn't proper, the ledger board wasn't properly anchored to the house. Like, it was like 50% of what it should have been for code, and they did it wrong. So it was just an absolute,
I mean, it's no wonder the deck wobbled
nightmare
when you walked on it.
but it was a great thing done. Like, great, like the best part was that, you know, for the most part, like the joists were fine. I had to fix up some of the posts, give it a resurface, you know, re-anchor it to the house. But now it's in a really good shape. I covered the joists with tar and tar paper, which sounds maybe a little crazy, but it's going to extend the life of those joists astronomically. They will not go in a landfill for so much more, you know, it's going to take so much more time for them to rot out, having it done like that. So anyways, and then we got, I put in new railings, which we used hog panel. It's also not 2 feet off the ground, so we technically actually didn't need railings, but we're going to use it to grow plants up, so it'll be great. Yeah, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 staircases that had to be built. It was a huge project, and the majority of it had to get done by June, which was Grayson's birthday, and it was a mad dash to have the backyard functional.
Yeah,
but it was functional.
Mad dash.
Yeah. It was a lot.
Yeah,
it was a lot. We could then, with the deck kind of being redone, and actually in the previous picture, you'll kind of have seen a bird's eye view of a yard. You'll see where the pool used to be, and actually we can show it again. Mm-hmm. That area where the pool used to be is now becoming what is going to be our outdoor kitchen space. So that area I then kind of framed up again with the kind of 4x4s, like I did everywhere else in the garden and paths. And then we brought in more stone, crushed stone, to then kind of regrade the area. So at least for this year, it was kind of livable. And then next year will be kind of more work to changing that space.
Yeah.
I really wanted to start working more with cement because I'm going to have to do some larger cement pads to put the outdoor kitchen. So I thought, I'm going to start doing some cement projects. Grayson said he really wanted, our son said he really wanted to have a fountain in his garden. So I was like, we can make a fountain. So I made a frame, got the kind of one large box. There's a little box that goes inside, which then holds the copper tubing, which holds the rhubarb leaves, which I made. And then the copper tubing also supplies the water to the little leaf that goes on top. And yeah, turned out pretty well. At the end of the summer, I sealed it up, and then I think this year will be its first year really running.
We got our first harvests from our fruit trees this fall, late summer, early fall. So we planted them in 2021, and 3 years later, we started to get fruit. So 2 of the apple trees put on apples, and our peach tree put on tons of peaches. And the squirrels tried to beat us to them. So we had some that were like perfectly ripe off the tree, but for the most part, I had to pick them a couple days early and bring them inside because the squirrels were gonna steal them all. But they were amazing and wonderful. And the compost system.
The compost system that you really wanted.
I know, I was complaining about inputs, and like, this is one of those things. The sooner you can start building large-scale composting system, then the sooner you get rid of that external input. And compost is expensive because it's a process. Like, people have to make compost starting with quality materials and then lots of time and aging and turning and everything. It's a big deal. So to make your own is going to be a huge money saver. And this scale that we have here is going to be the perfect amount to top up raised beds. And that's really all we need compost for, because everything else is the permaculture food forest design where the plants feed themselves.
Yeah. This was my first concrete slab that I poured. I definitely learned a lot doing the first one, in that you don't need to do it all in one shot. And I did it all in one day, and it was very hard, but I did it. The other thing I really like about this project is I'm pretty sure the only thing I bought for this was the bags of concrete. The stone underneath I stole some from the raised bed area, because we're gonna do a bit of a change, or a topper I should say, this year. So I stole some of that. The metal that's in there was from the leftover hog panel from the railings. And I think some of the cattle panel that we had for other things before. All of the wood came from the deck. So when I took the deck apart, like, yes, the deck wasn't in great shape, but the wood still had, certain pieces had, life left in it. It was perfectly good. Just not something I want necessarily structurally on my deck. So I used it for the compost system, and the lid I made out of the pool metal. So literally the only thing I bought was, I can't remember if it was 15 bags of concrete or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, we installed another garden this fall because I partnered with Sprout Box Raised Beds. I wanted to test out their product. It seemed like a cool idea. We love metal. Metal doesn't rot, so we use it in our own beds. And it has been great so far.
And the last project that we did, of course, were more raised beds. So I did 2 more raised beds. We built this one that wraps around the corner of the deck there. There's another one on the other side. The picture doesn't show it, but you get the idea. So on the front, it's actually slightly narrower. It's about a 12-inch wide. And then on the side that's gonna face our kitchen, or the open area, that's 16 inches wide, so we can fit some larger things, maybe a tomato.
Yeah, we'll put a few cherry tomatoes climbed up. I am all about fitting plants in where they shouldn't.
And this was built, on Marketplace, I got a $70 load of lumber from someone, and she was just like, take as much as you can. And I filled the back of our SUV, and I think I almost broke our roof racks, just like full of wood for $70. So all the wood in both the raised beds we did, and the metal came from the original metal that was used in the other raised beds, so it matches. So this, again, this project had very little cost associated with it, because it was found materials for a really great price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in year 5 now, 2025. I have these themes every year, and I didn't make a theme yet for 2025 in my gardening journal, because I'm curious what you think our theme for 2025 should be.
Well, I don't know what a theme. I know what I'm gonna work on. Like you said, I'm a big planner. I know kind of all of the next steps that need to occur. So for the kitchen area, the next step is going to be digging out a large hole and building a dry well to handle the water that's gonna run off from our kitchen. So that's gotta happen first in the series of events. Then I have to run a drain pipe up to where the kitchen is going to be. Then I need to frame out where the kitchen's going to go and what where the slab's going to go, as well as where all of the posts for the pergola will go. So likely for me, it's going to just be stone, more stone and concrete work to get that whole area laid out, so that the following year I can start building. I can put the pergola up, I can build the counter, but it's going to be getting the foundation laid out and prepped so that I can just do the building in the following year. So a lot of stone and concrete for me. Even the dry well is so much, it's largely stone.
Yeah.
So
it's funny, I'm sitting here thinking slow and steady, but when you see our yard, it doesn't look that way. It just looks like everything happens so fast. but the thought process goes back way before the projects even start. And so it feels slow and steady to us because we're like, we've been thinking about this for
I know
a year.
the next 10 steps.
Yeah.
In my, like, I know exactly how we need to execute the next, so many steps through.
Yes.
And in doing that and knowing that, it moves things along so much more quickly.
Yeah. One thing I want to get done this year that I want you to do is build a bigger trellis for our boysenberry. I have a boysenberry that I planted along with the fruit trees in 2022, and it's just like suffocating the ground beneath it. It's in rough shape because it has nowhere to go. It's on a trellis right now that's like 3 feet wide by 5 feet tall. It's just a vertical up and down. It's not enough. And your aunt has this beautiful garden in Niagara on the lake, and it's got this beautiful bench that she made with a big like arbor over top. And she has, maybe it's like a native clematis or something big and beautiful that's just like covering it. And the boysenberry would totally do that. So I have that in my mind.
See, like, but that's an easy win between the like all of the stone planning and concrete planning.
Something creative with wood.
Yeah.
As opposed to just hauling concrete and wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were like, no, next year you got to start the foundation for, a greenhouse, it'd be like, no. Like, there's a realistic thing that we can get into, and that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's realistic.
Yeah. And we also don't have any seating areas in our garden yet, which I find, I feel like that's important.
Sure.
I do hang the hammock a lot and
For
just sit
when we're not sitting doing projects.
We don't sit. It's true.
Like, you're
but
right.
Maybe we would.
Right, yeah. You're right. Maybe we would sit.
We're going to fill the new raised beds. Also, that's easy. They're so small. Like, that's maybe 2 yards.
They're probably 50% filled now.
With sticks and stuff and logs, and then maybe build 2 new raised beds in 2025. No, we will. That's it for raised beds, I think.
We'll see.
I already know what I want to plant in them in the late summer, Okay, and then the 10-year plan. 10-year plan. I say I'm not a planner, but I plan the future, like way out. I don't.
Well,
plan
you said no, but this is how it works. It's like you set the big goals.
Yes.
And then I figure out the bites over the years and how we get to that end goal.
That's right. That is
so
how
like
it works.
that is how it works.
Yes. So we will in 10 years have a beautiful outdoor kitchen.
Oh yeah.
With a pizza oven.
Yeah.
And a beautiful handmade table.
So when you say in 10 years, you mean 10 years from when we got the place?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be well within 10 years.
That's 6 full years away. Yeah.
Yeah.
A pergola over the outdoor kitchen with grapes on it. And we want to do some raised beds in the front of our house as well. We live in the suburbs, and the boulevard garden has become sort of a trending thing among local gardeners. People are taking over that boulevard. Our city's okay with it as long as things are low profile. And so we were thinking we could put some really low raised beds in the front, raised just to keep like the salt spray and all the gunk that comes off the roads off of it, and people's dogs may not be as likely to walk in it. And then we can just grow some free food for the community, for neighbors, whatever. Easy things that don't take a lot of attention, just stick them in there and people can come by and pick what they want. And then also just maybe get rid of all the grass in our front yard.
Yeah.
We don't have much left. Our asparagus is out there. We have a big serviceberry tree and a bunch of native plants, but there's still a big chunk of grass. We need space for Halloween decorations, but that's really it.
They can garden.
The Halloween decorations can garden. They can be gardeners. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. And then a greenhouse.
Yeah.
That's like my orchard dream.
I'm not sure. See, like, I'm not sure that will be in the 10-year plan.
Sometimes I don't even know if it's a thing we should do here.
Oh.
Like, I go back and forth on it a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like we're forcing this land here to accommodate a greenhouse because I want a greenhouse, but it doesn't necessarily fit with the slope, the direction that we have, the space. If we were to build it into the slope, which would be great for saving the heat and whatever. It's facing northwest, which is where our prevailing cold winds come. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So it may not happen. It may, maybe some greenhouse company will sponsor me and will give me a greenhouse and we will find a place where it looks beautiful. But
I think even that's hard, like, because I think no matter what, I want when we do, on whether it's here or at a future place, I want the lower half to be brick.
Yeah.
Like I have visions of how I would want to build it, so I don't know if I want to be getting into.
Okay, don't give me a free greenhouse.
Well,
wants to build it.
Anyways, my point is more that probably will not be in 10 years from moving into this house because the outdoor kitchen itself is going to be, I think, at least 2 to 3 more years, depending on how much I want to take on and what other things you like to throw in, like benches and other things.
Yeah.
And then once we're there, that only leaves us 3 years until we're at the 10 and like a greenhouse. In the way that I'm envisioning it, I need more than 3 years to plan that. Yeah. I need to mentally plan it. There'll be like excavation, there'll be foundation, there'll be, and like, unless we're like rolling in a whole lot of money, like it's got to be staged out. So I doubt it will be in 10 years, just setting realistic expectations.
All right, well, there you have it. That's where we've come from and that's where we're going. Well, I hope that you enjoyed following us on this journey of the past 4 years and that you look forward to going with us into year 5. And as always, I hope that you'll come and grow with us.